بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء
In the
والمرسلين.
name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad. Dear sisters and brothers, may peace be upon all of you. This is Dr. Hanan Al-Qai, Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Women Development Organization, WDO. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to this important seminar titled Women's Rights to Land Ownership, Inheritance and Guardianship in the OIC member states. First of all, allow me to extend a special welcome to His Excellency Prof. Dr. Mustafa Sano, Secretary General of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, and His Excellency Dr. Abbas Abdullah Shoman, Secretary General of the Council of Senior Scholars in Al-Azhar Al-Sharif, Her Excellency Dr. Afnan Alshuaiby, Executive Director of the WDO, Prof. Dr. Nahla Saidi, Advisor to Sheikh Al-Azhar Al-Sharif, and Dr. Yasmin Safwat, Legal Advisor for the Arbitration of Local and International Disputes. And I welcome all the welcome all the participants, welcome all of you. We begin the webinar today with the opening speech of Her Excellency Dr. Afnan Abdullah Shuaibi, the Executive Director of the WDO, and now I'm giving her the floor. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Your Excellencies, the honorable guests, may peace be upon all of you. I'm pleased to welcome all of you today to this important webinar, which is being held today with the high-level participation of their excellencies from the International Islamic Fiqh Academy and Al-Azhar. Also, I'd like to welcome Professor Qod Mustafa Sano, and Dr. Abbas Shoman as well, and Dr. Nahla Al-Saidi, and Dr. Iman al-Jindi. This participation reflects the great importance we all attach to the issue of women's rights to land ownership, inheritance, and guardianship. The WDO is considered an independent, specialized organization concerned with the promotion and empowerment of women in the OIC member states. It also works to be an effective voice for 800 million women in the countries of the Islamic world, as it aims to enhance the status of women and girls through programs and initiatives that focus on economic empowerment. This comes in addition to financial inclusion, education, health, fighting corruption and violence, and political participation as well. The organization also seeks to build women's capabilities and enable them to access economic resources and opportunities, and this is maintained by achieving gender equality and ensuring women's rights in all fields based on Islamic values and humanitarian principles. Women in the OIC member states face a number of challenges in land ownership, inheritance, and guardianship, despite the legal provisions that guarantee their rights. Unfortunately, cultural changes and customary practices often deviate from these principles, creating significant challenges for women in various fields, especially social and economic. Sisters and brothers, today we aim to highlight the importance of women's right to land ownership, inheritance, and guardianship, and raise awareness among stakeholders in OIC countries on the importance of law reform to ensure women's equitable access to legal protection and productive resources. We also seek to introduce the Islamic perspective on land rights, guardianship, and inheritance, and highlight the interpretations that support women's rights. Sisters and brothers, the challenges that women face in land and inheritance rights require us to work hard and continuously to make the necessary legal reforms and promote community awareness. Rising from this point, I invite everyone to actively participate in this webinar and present ideas and recommendations that will contribute to achieving our common goals in this webinar. In conclusion, I'd like to express my thanks to Professor Qutb Mustafa Sano, Dr. Abbas Abdullah Shoman, Dr. Nahla Al-Saidi, and Advisor Yasmin Safwat for their active participation that will have a great impact on coming up with recommendations on this topic of discussion. And I'd like also to convey my thanks and appreciation to the participants and distinguished attendees, asking God to guide us all for good and success. May peace be upon all of you.
شكرا لك دكتور أفنان، شكرا لك سعادتك على هذه الكلمة الطيبة. في بداية
Thank you so much, Dr. Afnan, for your speech. At the outset, we would like to highlight the percentage of women who own lands in the OIC member states, which varies greatly. According to the OIC and the statistics provided by SESRIC, we can find that the rates of women's land ownership ranges generally between very low percentages to moderate ones. For example, in some states like Pakistan and Bangladesh, we can find that the percentage of women owning lands is less than 10%. However, with other states, like some African member states, the percentage could reach 10 to 20%. Women in a lot of the member states also face legal, social, and cultural challenges that hinder their ability to own lands, like discrimination in the laws of inheritance, as well as social norms that favor men in the distribution of properties. Before our discussion with His Excellency Professor Dr. Qutb, I'd like to give you 3 scenarios of the reality that women are living in our member states. The first scenario is to mothers who shoulder the burden of pregnancy, birth, caring for kids, and house chores, as well as the responsibility of caring for her husband and her family, as well as sewing, harvesting, all the way to selling the produced product. This woman, like many, is deprived from the credit security and is deprived from the benefit of revenues and their legitimate rights, which makes them in need for their rights in order to improve their economic and social circumstances. The second scenario is for a woman like others who has a legitimate right in inheritance. However, she has been compensated by money as security asset that can be used to obtain the loans and financing necessary to start or expand her economic projects. The third scenario is for a young girl who has a right to her inheritance from the land, but is compensated with money as a material value for her share of the inheritance at the time, and does not have the right to object or claim the right guaranteed to her by Sharia or law. Over time, the girl grows up and the value of money decreases. With the decrease of the purchasing power, that is, the loss of money, to its real value over time, this woman or girl loses the ability to outperform the inflation rate and its impact by owning land, and her ability to benefit from development services, financing, and other aids for social and economic advancement. With these scenarios and this introduction, I would like to start with His Excellency Professor Qutb. In the context of Islamic texts that provide us with clear guidelines for women's rights, how can we benefit from these texts the best to support women's land rights in member states? And what are the practical steps that can be taken to ensure the application of these provisions in order to achieve justice and gender equality in accordance with Islamic law? In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most compassionate, And may blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad.
وتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. بداية نسجلها
In the
شكرا
beginning, I'd like to thank Her Excellency Dr. Afnan Alshuaiby, the Executive Director of the WDO, and His Excellency Dr. Abbas Shoman, the Secretary General of the Council of Senior Scholars in Al-Azhar Al-Sharif, and Dr. Nahla Al-Saidi, Advisor to the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, and to you, Dr. Hanan, for this introduction, and Dr. Afnan as well for gathering this webinar in which we congratulate you on organizing it because we are in a deep need as we are living in an age that we need to take advantage of everything that can communicate between all of us without any financial expenses. And also, I want to congratulate you for the topic that you have chosen, as it's a very related topic to the Arab Islamic nation and the member states of the OIC, which reaches 57 states. And also, you suggested the discussion of this topic. We wanted to go for the reality, and you mentioned all the rates that you all mentioned calls upon all of us to be aware to this very critical issue, which in our laws, in Islamic laws, it's very it's a solved issue, and there are no conflicts in it. And also, there are no problems when it comes to or in terms of the solution that Shoman will be talking about, and Dr. Nahla as well. Permit me to say only one word, that the inheritance in the Islamic rules, the inheritance could be money or gold, or also can be natural resources such as lands, real estates, etc., and many other things that we consider um, that that the Sharia does not discriminate the rights of women, and it's considered one of the pillars of the Islamic rules, and there is no conflicts regarding this issue because it's the main pillar of the religion. And also, the inheritance is a very important topic to which many texts are being issued. And if we try hard to explain these issues, we won't be able to cope up with the Islamic rules. If a man died and left money, lands, gold, and whatsoever, all the amount of the money will be added, and it will be an inheritance for all the successors, including men and women, and they will all take their shares according to the Islamic rules. There will be no discrimination for the landowners from the heirs, and this is not this is not provided in the Islamic Sharia, because the land as kind of money and the gold as a kind of money is they are not different when it comes to the distribution and the shares that the Sharia imposes to men and women in this field. That's why I consider this issue that is imposed in many rural societies that are still very far away to the commitment or being aware of this provisions of the Islam and the verses that came on this issue in the Quran, as the men will take the double of the share of the women, and also the other verses that confirms this idea or this role. These verses does not discriminate if the inheritance is either lands or money. If it is a land, it will be distributed to the heirs, and if it is distributed, it will be distributed as is or according to its amount of money, or it can be specialized or dedicated to men or the male sons or female daughters. This is very wrong, and this is not existing in our religion. And all what the people are doing in the name of Islam, Islam is very innocent from this, and this is not related to our Islamic rules. Uh, we consider the male's ownership to the land is equal to the female ownership, and this ownership is a part of the when it comes to the inheritance of this ownership, we have to be committed to the Islamic rules, as it can be estimated financially and could be distributed accordingly. I think that these are the norms and traditions that still exists in many Islamic societies, which are very far away from the Islamic religion and the constitutions um, of the states of these peoples. For example, the ignorance that prevail in many societies is the one who make the women deprived from the land ownership, and she can resort to any legislative source to take back her own right to the distribution of the inheritance. And we are having two levels of of the states that have constitutions, um, to which these people are can belong. There are no such problems in the inheritance, as the inheritance can be distributed equally and not according to the Islamic Sharia, or the rule of that the male should be taking double the female's share. And it is the most equitable distribution, and the one that protect the family the most, as when we talk about the inheritance, as as there is as it is favoring males over females or men over women. This is not the case here, because Islam always seek justice and equality, uh, because this is not the case in the Islamic religion, as we stating that there are males and females, and there's no difference between them. This difference can be embodied in the distribution of the inheritance, and it can be embodied also in the distribution of the male and female, as she takes the third and the male takes the two-thirds in the name of the family, because the male will be always responsible for the family. And this is not the case when it comes to the male, as when she is facing any difficult challenges, her brother should be spending on her and should be taking or shouldering her responsibility, or his father if he is still alive. So, in conclusion, in our Islamic religion, there is no discrimination when it comes to the land ownership for male or female. The Islam is not giving a due care to the gender. If there is a man or this is a woman, there is no such thing in Islam. And the inheritance can be money, can be real estates, can be lands, can be gold, and also can be crops. All of these can be distributed to the heirs according to what God has stated. And in the in the end of the verses that are related to the inheritance, we can find that God is linking all of this that linking all of this to asking the males to take care of asking the males to take care of the females to and to follow the God's order because he is the one knowing everything, because there are aims and goals and secrets that the human being don't know. And that's why the science is always linked to the provisions of the Islam, that the human is ignorant regarding these rules and provisions. However, the Islamic religion and God was, and because God is putting a system for everything that is not a discriminatory one between males and females. However, unfortunately, we're trying to update this system. We are trying to abandon this system, thinking that there's another system which is better than the one we should be following. I reiterate the idea that this system, the Islamic system, is the most good one for us to follow, where the human being should follow, that will protect the family, that will protect the human being, uh, that without it, or when we destroy it, the whole humanity will be destroyed accordingly. And I'd like to retrieve this point. We have Dr. Abbas Shoman and Dr. Nahla Al-Saidi that will retreat that the guardianship, that the same applies to the guardianship, as the male has the right to give the guardianship to the females if she has a cousin, or if she has a nephew, um, except the peoples who don't have the right to be heirs. And the guardianship should be to the parents or the relatives, the mother that can be non-Muslim, and if he wants, he can give her the guardianship of these lands in the amount of the third. This um, this will cannot be different from giving her the lands or the gold or silver or money, as the lands can be considered money, and the rules of money could be applied as well as the lands, and can be distributed accordingly among the heirs and the relatives. The guardianship is also one of the most important issues that we should be discussing today, because the ownership can be after death also. Many people escape from considering this topic, and the human will not be talking about this. However, the Quran was very clear on this topic, as if any one of you dies, you can uh, you can consider the Prophet, as he said, as you can write the will in any. However, it can be in the limit of third, and he cannot be giving the guardianship for the males only or the females only. However, the guardianship should be for the people who are not relatives or who are not heirs. However, it's preferred to be for those who are more related to the family or for the deceased person, and those who have the right, either males or females, to give the guardianship to their sisters or brothers if they are having males or sons, as his death means that his brothers and sisters has no right to inheritance. That's why those people when those people don't take the inheritance, the other people will be deprived as well. That's why he should give the guardianship to the girls, or for the males, or those who will not have access to the inheritance. By this picture, this system is completed for the survival of the human being. As long as the system is surviving, and accordingly the family will be surviving as well. They are all interrelated to each other. And also the husbands, spouses, brothers and sons, and may peace be upon all of you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Professor Kotoub. You have summarized the whole issue, and you've said how the issue is resolved in Islam. You've also made it clear within the framework of the Islamic texts how women are supported and how inheritance should go. However, we still would like to know what are the practical steps that we can take in order to apply these Islamic texts in a way that achieves equality and justice between the two genders in accordance with the Islamic Sharia. Additionally, what are the challenges that hinder uh, the achievement of these rights? For me, I think we should start with knowledge. When women know their rights, women have to know and be aware of their rights, and that their duties should not ever be taken away in any way or any illegitimate form. Therefore, we need to combat ignorance among women. We need to make sure that every woman knows her path and her rights, because once she knows her rights, she will not give up on them, and she will not surrender to the customs that are unjust to her, because Islamic laws are very clear and give her her full rights. If a woman reads these texts about inheritance in Islam and earnings in Islam, she will find that she is equal with the man. Allah says you have to work because Allah, His prophets, and all Muslims will see your work. Therefore, the Holy Quran also states that men have their share from what they earn, and so do women. It's like the Quran is telling us that we will earn once we work, and dividing money is for men but also for women, unless there are some circumstances that disable her from doing so. If she is, for example, a wife or a mother, and so on, these things that might prevent her from doing so. However, there has to be someone who compensates her for this work that she should have been doing. Here, we need to raise awareness among women that these rights are fixed, that women have their rights for land ownership and real estate. A woman also has the right to all this money. There is no difference between gold or silver or real estate or any type of money. Islam has given her permission to earn money, and whoever earns money will later on give money for their heirs. It will then be inheritance. So we need awareness. We need our countries to be very well aware of those who try to mess with these rights, because Allah says that those in charge should be very well aware of these things. We should not let customs and norms interfere with Allah's law, because if we surrender to everything Allah says, we will let go of all the customs and norms that limit us, when we will know our real rights. Therefore, our states have to monitor those who try to mess with rights, and so have the organizations, because they will support other states and spread these ideas in order to make our women, mothers, daughters, and everyone realize that these are inalienable rights and that they should not accept anyone taking these rights away just because they are males or men or sons or whatsoever. All these things that are not true in the Islamic Sharia or our laws and constitutions. I don't think that there is any state in the world today that accepts such practices that we perceive as unjust practices that oppose our religion, because anything that opposes our religion also opposes human rights that are for sons and heirs. There is no man that will earn this money and monopolize it just because he's a male. Women, on the other hand, did not choose to be a woman, and you did not choose to be a man either. But Allah decided who will be which. He made rules for men and others for women, and created both men and women. They are both complete and supplement each other. They work together and build together this universe, because Allah has stated that whoever works properly, whether he's a male or a female, will be granted rewards. We have to support our rights and stand against oppression. This relationship that the Prophet has described as brotherhood and sisterhood between males and females. Hence, we need this awareness that should be spread with organizations, and here in the International Islamic Fiqh Academy as well, we're working on that. We are monitoring very well this issue, and we realize that whoever messes with this topic in the name of Islam should be stood against. We all have to communicate with one another and communicate with societies that might be a bit remote, because this does not happen in cities. It's not an issue of cities. This is not a rural issue. It's a case of women surrendering to their destiny, or the monopolizing of those unjust individuals who do not fear Allah or fear taking these money in an unjust manner. However, they will be held accountable on the day of judgment, and in our societies and in the Council of Senior Scholars and elsewhere. All are going to be one voice to spread awareness and to highlight Allah's sayings in land ownership, and that it's a right for women, as well as the rights in inheritance, just like our law has stated. There is no differentiating between gold or silver or men and females. Same goes for inheritance, because money, gold, silver, and others are all money. They are all inheritance that are divided to its individuals. This is one of the issues that are looked at as something that it cannot be compared to other laws. And Islam has carefully taken care of this issue. This law, this Islamic law, has come to make reforms for individuals and spread mercy, as well as bring about everything that would achieve peace, welfare, and prosperity for human beings. That's why we should be very proud of this law. We should defend it, and we should also explain to people and to those who think that there is bias or favoring, because Islam is just, our Sharia or law is just, and everything that is not just is therefore not from Islam, and people are just trying to put this image falsely. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, but we have to address the issue by raising awareness and having knowledge. Women have to know their rights, and we need to combat ignorance among women so that they know their rights. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Professor, I just want to mention a comment that we've received from Dr. Sana Muhammad Mohsen Al-Utaibi. We need to make some procedures that are more strict in order for women to get their rights.
Now we're talking. I'd like to give the floor to Prof. Dr. Nahla Al-Saidi, who will start the discussion with our honorable guests, and I'm giving her the floor right now. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad. Your Excellencies, the honorable attendees, may peace be upon all of you. In the beginning, I'd like to extend my thanks to the WDO, which affiliates to the OIC, represented by Dr. Afnan Alshuaiby, the Executive Director of the organization. I'd like to thank you for the organization of such important webinar in this very critical time where the Muslim women face complicated challenges. Also, I'd like to welcome the scientists and the scholars, Dr. Abbas Shoman, the former Undersecretary of Al-Azhar and the Secretary General of the Council of Senior Scholars, and His Excellency Dr. Kotoub Sano, the Secretary General of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, and Dr. Hanan Al-Qawai, the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Women Development Organization, and also Her Excellency Ms. Yasmin Safwat, the Legal Advisor for the Arbitration of Local and International Disputes. Ladies and gentlemen, women rights to land, guardianship, and inheritance has a great status in the Islamic Sharia that put the pillars, very strong ones, to guarantee the rights of women in society. Since the very beginning of time, and Islam has approved many rules when it comes to the rights of the women in many fields, embodying the justice that achieve equality between the two genders. When it comes to the land ownership, Islam give the full right to women to land ownership and to do she wants without any guardianship of anyone. And this embodies Islam's respect to women and her great role in the constituting of the society. And throughout many models, the Islam proved that women manage the lands that contributes to enhancing the economies and the status of women, either the social ones in the inheritance field. مم. لا هي ميوت.
عفوا دكتورة نهلة، بس الصوت مقطوع، إذا ممكن تفتحيه من عندك.
نعم شكرا. فالمرأة هو مقطوع من ساعتها ولا قطع الآن؟
قبل شوية مش كتير.
قبل
ماشي.
شوية
يعني بيد أن هذا الدور لا يقصي المرأة عن المشاركة
The
الفاعلة
role of the woman does not separate the woman or prevent her from taking her responsibility for her family and children and taking the decisions for her children and her financial issues and affairs. The Islam approved many rules to women when it comes to the motherhood of women to their children, admitting her rights to do so. And the rules when it comes to the rules of the Islam to the women rights of land ownership exceeds all the legal provisions to be just and equal for all the women. Throughout this Sharia and provisions, Islam guarantee the equality for women, and this is a kind of equality that the societies need in order to achieve the sustainable development and the well-being as well. Your Excellency, Dr. Abbas Shoman, we know that the Al-Azhar plays a great and significant role in various fields when it comes to the women's issues. We would like you to highlight the role of Al-Azhar that the Al-Azhar plays in when it comes to the right of women to land ownership in the OIC member states and how these efforts, Al-Azhar's efforts in promoting and enhancing and applying the rights on the ground. And now I'm giving you the ground. Can you open your mic, please? In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his friends, and his families. May peace be upon all of you. I would like to thank all the attendees of this webinar in all the countries all over the world. I'd like to thank them with a very suitable way, in a very suitable way. May peace be upon all of you. I'd like also to thank my colleagues and the participants in this webinar. And we start by women, Dr. Afnan, Dr. Hanan, Dr. Nahla, and my brother, His Excellency, Prof. Dr. Sano. I'd like also to thank the OIC and also the International Islamic Fiqh Academy and the WDO for these significant efforts that we need and the efforts of all the institutions and organizations, including Al-Azhar, because we are all contributing to this common goal, and also we are all participating in applying our Sharia's rules for all the people who are seeking its help, even for the people who are not related to the Islam religion. All the people know, as my brother Dr. Qutb has mentioned, and as you have mentioned, that women in Islam have taken her own rights, very clear ones. We don't need any legal provisions to give the rights to women. However, we're facing a challenge of applying and implementing these rights and these provisions. The provisions and the rights of women are complete, and all the people know the status of women before and after Islam, and the difference is crystal clear when it comes to providing rights of women in various fields. However, our problem here that we are confronting and are facing many cultures that are affected by the norms and traditions of the of the age of ignorance, and they are still affecting the rules of Sharia, even with the scholars or the people who study the Islamic religion rules, including scholars and the educated people. All the people knows the provisions of the Sharia. We don't need to introduce people to the women's right, because all the people know that the women have their own rights in inheritance, dowry, and that the husband has the responsibility to take and to shoulder her own responsibility as well. The problem here is that we are not committed to such rules and texts. Al-Azhar, as one of the institutions that is concerned with the pillars of the societies and the classes of the societies, including men and women, Al-Azhar is sparing no effort to apply and implement these rights and trying to applying it from being so academic to be practical in the people's lives. As the leadership in the Al-Azhar, and as being the advisor of the Grand Imam, you know very well the keenness that the Grand Imam gives to this issue, not only in Al-Azhar, but also wherever she can be found, as he's one of the advocates for the women's issues and affairs, and we usually tell him as a joke that he is always advocating women and we're asking for equality for men as well. He should be thanked actually for this, and we are all convinced by this. Al-Azhar works on empowering women in all fields, and you are one of the deans of the universities of Al-Azhar, and how you know how many deans that we have in Al-Azhar universities, and they are members in our council as well. You know that we have hundreds and maybe thousands of the female sheikh for the institutions, and they have the highest percentage there, and this is present as well in Al-Azhar. You know the representation of women in Al-Azhar institutions and councils. You know that the rate, that the percentage is very high, and how they are effectively contribute and participate in everything in the society. Al-Azhar is giving a due care for this issue, and it always communicate with all the fiqh academies and organizations concerned with the women's affairs and issues in this field. We participate in them. Uh, we have high level participations as well in order to approve and adopt these rights. As my brother Kotoub has mentioned, we are in a deep need to we are in deep need that that the women should help us to take her rights. Women are one of the reasons that she's not being given her own rights. I actually was wondering about the title of the webinar. Why the land ownership per se? We don't have any discrimination in the ownership. The ownership is the same when it comes to the lands or the financial ownerships, uh, and what the women deserve in the inheritance. Either the quarter for the wife, or the six for the mother, and the other rules of the Sharia when it comes to the women in very different cases. And there's no discrimination in each and every case when it comes to the inheritance. The inheritance include land, money, and everything. and it could be mentioned in its overall, as there's no certain text in our Sharia that dedicate the inheritance and or the land ownership for the males and dedicate the other inheritance or the other inheritance forms for the females. It is one rule that we should all follow. Fourth, for the women, in from the inheritance in the lands, money, real estate, property, and so on. Eighth, for her in other cases, and half in other cases, and there's no discrimination when it comes to the land or the other forms of inheritance. That's why we have to work on acknowledging the right of women to land ownership without any kind of discrimination. That's why I would like to tell you that the title itself may be referring to the point that the land ownership should be given more search, uh, or it is considered a very important issue, or it needs more proofs. That's not the case here, as the land ownership is fixed, and there's no difference if it is a land or if it or a real estate or money. It's the same in all cases, and that's what Al-Azhar is working on with all its affiliated institutions or bodies. And I think that there are more questions, and I will be talking in detail about this perspective as well in order to save your time.
شكرا لكم سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور عباس شومان
Thank you so much, Dr. Abbas
وصفتوا
Shoman,
الجواب بهذا الشكل
for
الواسع عن
highlighting,
دور الأزهر
extensively highlighting the
والأزهر
role Al-Azhar plays, specifically given that we have a lot of participants from different countries that perhaps don't know anything about what Al-Azhar is doing. So if we are talking about Al-Azhar's role, it's a very big institution, and it's like a call for other institutions to take the same path as Al-Azhar, due to the reality that women have lived in Al-Azhar. What Al-Azhar is doing gives a message, a very important message, in fact, which is that Islam has blessed women and given them their rights. Islam did not do any injustice to women. We always hear that Islam really limits women and is very unjust to them. However, this institution that teaches the Islamic Sharia clarifies otherwise. So thank you so much for this clarification that perhaps a lot of the attendees did not know. We want to stop at something very important that you've mentioned, Professor, which is that women do help us. I believe that rights have to be taken strongly, and we have to take it strongly from men, from society in general. As for the title of our seminar on the land ownership, we have entitled it that way because there are countries that do not, in fact, give women rights to land ownership. And this is an issue for a lot of member states. Dr. Hanan, I think, has pointed out that in Pakistan there is 10% of women only that take their rights. So I think perhaps in some rural areas as well, when a woman tries to take her share in inheritance and land ownership, uh, sometimes they face issues, and this is still present in some areas, as if women do not deserve to take their shares in lands. The other thing, and the other question that I will move to now, Professor, you have talked about a very important topic, which is that rights are known to everyone. Yes, however, we lack application. The second question is, if we lack application, um, leaders, institutions have to apply and change these cultural practices that hinder women's rights to land ownership. Can you perhaps tell us some effective strategies that institutions can adopt as well as leaders to achieve such change and ensure women's rights in accordance with Islamic texts if we lack application. Of course, there is role for the leaders and institutions. So are we able to perhaps take an insight? Through the multiple events in Al-Azhar, in education, you know, of course, that Al-Azhar is a great institution in education, and that there is um, university education and school education as well. We also grant PhDs to a lot of individuals. Therefore, we are pioneers in the education sector also through our scholars in Al-Azhar. So Al-Azhar, through its strategies, tries to highlight these rights and move to how to achieve them in societies, as well as correct people's perceptions about it. This is done through education curricula, as well as ensuring women's rights and warning against whoever tries to messes with them. We do this through our scholars, male and female scholars of Al-Azhar who are present all over Egypt and also abroad all over the world. This is, in fact, or perhaps what makes us move to our member states. There is no member state without a lot of Al-Azhar delegates. So we all meet in the middle in order to achieve goals and provisions taken from our Sharia or law, whether this is Al-Azhar or the Organization on Islamic Cooperation. We are all working together in this field, trying to supplement one another. Through these strategies, we focus on two pillars. The first is encouraging males to comply with these fixed rules and warning against anyone who tries to steal women's rights, especially in rural societies where women are done injustice to. We can also see that sometimes they satisfy women as if they do not have the full right to land ownership or real estate. However, we can give them some money. However, this is not permitted in our Islamic law because women have their full rights, and if she decides to give it to someone else, it has to be her decision because she originally has full ownership to these lands and real estate areas. So if she decides to keep them, she can. And if she wants to be compensated fairly, then she can also do that. Here, we move to women. It's as if women are not convinced that they can own lands, and that's why you can find a lot of women who are who leave these rights to their relatives as if they see that lands are only suitable for males. This is incorrect. They have to know that they have the right to land ownership just like males. If she does not want to manage it herself, or she wants to keep it for herself, or she wants to let this all go and be compensated financially, then all of this is her decision. She should not be forced to do anything, or no one should impose anything on her because because the compensation has to be fair. It has to be accepted by women. They have to It has to be their free will without any pressures. We are not in a war. We're not saying that women have to take their rights forcefully. We just want them to know their rights. We want them to know that they have to really stick to their rights. We want to correct their knowledge that if they inherit a land from the husband or the father and they do not let it go, this is not an insult to her family, like some males would try to convince her or even try to terrify her. She has to know that this is her full right and that she has the option that if she does not let it go, even legally, then she is not insulting anyone, not those who are still alive or those who have died or those who died. This is her right. She can either keep it or be compensated, but she has to be satisfactorily compensated. We should not be saying that she shouldn't be satisfied with men and she should not have fathers or a husband's lands. We do not want that. We want women to correct their knowledge, know that there is nothing wrong with this, and that this is what we're trying to work with in all fields. We would like to send a message to women's organizations present, whether this is the Women Development Organization or any other organizations, which is that if you really want to serve women, you have to work in the framework of inalienable rights. Some of these organizations and those concerned with women's affairs, we might find conversations on things that need to be talked about, things that we can find conflicts on. However, we are still not fully aware of the inalienable rights. That's why we have to start with inalienable or fixed rights like inheritance or guardianship, which what Al-Azhar's last conference has addressed, which is compensating the woman for caring for her husbands or fathers, um, values and monies, and that this has nothing to do with her share in the inheritance. So whoever works with her husband or father in trade or else otherwise, she has to be compensated and then take her share in inheritance afterwards. We have to state these rights. We have to address any issues concerned with them. We have to spread this knowledge and then talk about any disagreements, rights for maternal leaves or compensation for breastfeeding and others. We should not be losing our main and inalienable rights. I'm not saying this so that we leave talking about the other issues. However, all I'm saying is we should not be talking about the more minor issues that might have different perspectives and opinions and completely lose the main issues because women have not had their inheritance yet. Therefore, we have to call for these rights first, and then look at other issues that need more research and discussions because we need to be just towards women and not just care about secondary issues and lose the main ones.
أخيرا سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور
Yes,
عباس
thank you
شومان
so much,
يعلو
Dr.
لدينا
Abbas
من
Shoman.
ترجمة
We
فضيلته
can,
بعض الرسائل.
from your
أولا أن
message,
تكون واعية
send some
بحقها
other message,
ومتمسكة بحقها
messages that
ولا
women have
ترتكب
to be very
أخطاء
aware of their rights,
والاحتفال أيضا
uh,
بظلم المرأة
not let it
وظلم
go, and
الرجال
that
على
males
الرجال
should also
والغار في
stop
الدنيا
being
فإن
unjust to
المهنة
women
مهنة
because they will be
الرجال.
held
على
accountable at the
المؤسسات
day of
ونحن
judgment.
معنا
Institutions,
أعضاء
and we have a lot of
عديدين في
members, a great
أعضاء
number of
المنظمات
members
للاهتمام بالحفاظ على
of some
الحقوق
organizations.
وتبرير ذلك
We have to
يجب
care
أن
for
يكون هناك وعي مجتمعي
educational
بقضايا
curricula
المرأة
so that there is
وحقوقها
societal
وتحقيق تلك الحقوق.
awareness
وعلينا
towards women's
جميعا أن
rights.
نبحث عن
We
الحلول
all
الوحيدة
have
للمرأة
to
أولا بالاهتمام
search
بها
for fixed or
وأبرز ذلك الحقوق على
inalienable rights for
الحقوق
women, and
في
then
الأشياء
look
الأخرى
for
التي
the more minor
تضع المرأة
uh,
في نالها
issues so that
الثالثة
we do not
وهي
lose the main rights of
العناية
women,
بذلك.
so that
شكرا لكم على
women do not
هذه
lose major
المداخلات
and minor rights. Thank you so
الرائعة.
much for your extensive
وطبعا لا غنى لنا
clarification,
عن
our
القانون.
professor. We, of course, need our legal bodies as well. The law is important, and if there is nothing, if there are laws that are not given, then we have to take it forcefully. Now we move on to Dr. Yasmin Safwat. Let's talk about the legal and societal challenges that women face in land ownership, and whether these challenges, if these challenges are present, are we able to overcome these challenges to ensure women's rights in this field? You have the floor, Ms. Yasmin Safwat. You can go ahead.
May peace be upon all of you. In the beginning, I'd like to thank all of you and to thank all my colleagues. Actually, these challenges are not legal ones, they are more of social ones. The issue is guaranteed in legal. However, there are many social challenges for women because they are long-standing norms that result into legal frameworks that discriminate between the sexes. For example, the outdated legislations that may not reflect women's full rights to land, uh, or even not recognition of rights acquired as a result of an actual relationship. For example,
إعلان الأمم المتحدة المتعلق بحقوق الفلاحين وغيرهم من العاملين في المناطق الريفية لعام
and also
2018
the peoples who are working in the rural areas that face such challenges. They are not only for the Islamic society, but in most of the world states, there are some legal provisions regarding this issue, the customary provisions and laws as well that the women have, and also the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Peasants and other people working in rural areas that urges legal recognition of land rights and combating the discrimination of women. And it gives the women the rights to land ownership and management. This is very critical issue because the management of lands
وكأن الصوت اتقطع ولا أنا اللي مش سامعة مشكلة عندي؟
أيوة الصوت كده تمام
اتفضلي يا
Can
أستاذة
you hear me
ياسمين.
well right now?
والحقيقة إن مش بس المرأة هي اللي لازم تعرف
However,
حقوقها
the right, not only the women should know her rights, but also the men have to know the women's right because we don't have to go into war. Uh, and this can be solved by the Islamic rules. And the women should know their rights and the provisions should be implemented and enforced because the legal guaranteed her rights to land ownership or the ownership of any other thing.
نعم شكرا لك أستاذة ياسمين على التأكيد على العلم.
Thank you, Ms. Yasmin, for confirming this and confirming the awareness of the women. We have to retreat that all the women should be very aware of their own rights. Otherwise, we won't be able to constitute a just community and society that will give all the rights to the women. And also retreat the importance of applying the legal provisions as we're talking about the importance of application of legal provisions. I'd like to ask you another question. What are the legal reforms that are required to enhance women's rights in land ownership, guardianship, and inheritance? And how can these reforms be applied to ensure equality and justice for women in this field? How can we apply them? What are the ways to apply them if the provisions are present, however, they are not applied or implemented? So, to what extent we shall be suffering? We're having the provisions, and however, they are not implemented. Is there a clear way that we can announce it and call upon the legal professionals to apply it as well? Actually, the women and men are equal in land ownership. This leads to the economic empowerment of women, and this is reflected in many various fields. Most importantly, that the norms and traditions give them the right, and this accordingly saves time, and this may also otherwise this may cause challenges to women and to have access to her own possessions. This threatens the gender equality and achieving the sustainable development goals. And also it will affect the economic conditions of women in the society, because the land ownership is very important in order to achieve peace, justice, equality, and it this main issue, or this important issue, leads to achieving the gender equality and achieving many of the SDGs. However, however, women was a victim for in all the countries all around the world when it comes to her access to lands and her ownership, because of the norms and traditions that done unjust to the women. That's why the women are are also vulnerable to this issue. They are also less able to have access to their own rights. Legally, women have the rights to come over this inequality and to avoid poverty, and we can use legal reforms in order to change the norms and social norms and traditions in order to achieve equitable opportunities. Also, legal provisions should be adopted effectively for the women that couldn't be committed to the laws. Also, the gender equality should be mainstreamed, applying also projects that consider the gender equality is very important thing to be taken into consideration. This comes in addition to the initiatives that address the same issue. Equality of quality of gender, especially for women, can there are many legal provisions that criminalize the sexual harassment and the land ownership deprivation for
شكرا
women
لك
as well.
أستاذة ياسمين، وطبعا نؤكد معك على
Thank
أن
you, Miss Yasmin, and we retreat with you that legal reforms are very important and that legal people.
نعم. ويعني أنا
دكتور نهلة.
أنتقل
Yes, and
للعلامة
I'd like to move for
دكتور
s- His Excellency Scholar Dr. Kotoub. Professor Kotoub, as you are an international scholar and you travel all over the world and you know very various models and you have a great vision because of your experience and because of your knowledge and because of being or traveling from one country to another. We would ask you to tell us more about the success stories of reforms lead to the empowerment of women to inheritance, and how, and if there are success stories, how can the rest of the countries can adopt this story instead of being one story only. It can be various ones, numerous ones. I'm giving you the floor, Mr. Cole. Thank you, Dr. Nahla. I think what His Excellency Dr. Abbas Shoman and what was reiterated by Miss Yasmin, actually, in our state countries, we have all the laws and provisions that are very crystal, that are clear, and they explicitly state that all the laws are here to guarantee the rights of women and to achieve the gender equality in the field of inheritance. And this is crystal clear. What we miss here is not related to the legal issue, it's related to the customary practices. How can we eliminate the rest of the norms and the traditions that we think that they are useless? and no more they are no more effective till now, because some women think that they still don't have the right to land ownership. How can we help her to understand that the land ownership is the same as the money ownership or the real estate ownership? The real estates are money and the gold are money, and if she owns those, she can be able to have the ownership of the lands, and we shall raise her awareness to her right to ownership. As she owns the gold and the real estate, she has the right to the land ownership as well. When it comes to the countries that I visited in the member states of the OIC, there is no state when it comes to its constitution. There is no injustice that we find on the ground, not in the legal provisions or laws. This made the task very significant and very challenging for the institutions like OIC, like the Azhar, uh, which their main goal is to perform and play this role, to raise awareness among women, because the rights that are being eliminated right now in the state, she can just go to her state and she will find that the right she's deprived of, she can take it back again easily without any difficulties. However, she's not ready mentally to do so. And the mental preparation and readiness is the most important point here, as she has to believe that it is its right to own the land, as when she believes in this and when she's convinced of this, she will be able to move and she will be able to search for methods that guarantee for her to take back her own rights if she's done injustice with in any case. The other advantage of our states that in our states we know that the religion is innocent from all these traditions and norms. As we have said, these norms and traditions are outdated and useless.
معالي الدكتور فقط أن يعني
Doctor,
مع
please, I'd like
احترامي
to
للزميلة الفاضلة
intervene because I want
إنه
to
أنتم
get benefit from
تتحدثوا
you.
تحديدا عن شيء
My
في
question
غاية
is
الأهمية
about a very
ولا
important point,
خلاف فيما تفضلت
and
به
there's
ونقف
no difference
ضده
about what you have said.
عن نقطة
However,
دقيقة
I'm
وهي
asking a very specific
لأن
point.
منذ سنوات ونحن نطالب بتمكين
We
النساء
have been asking for years for the empowerment of women and sustainable development. After all these years, are there any success stories that we can tell that overcome the gap between the very clear religious laws and provisions and the norms and traditions? So, if we have any story that we can take its path, this was my question per se. I'd like to answer you in Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Years ago, these practices and this participation that we see right now for the Saudi women, I was a student there in the 80s and I returned back as an employee in the another institutions. I found a great gap. There was a kind of openness, and we were back to the being committed to the Islam and its rules. And there is a kind of applying the there's a kind of confronting the concept that tries to marginalize the woman and tries to, despite the fact that the Sharia and Fiqh texts are very clear, the success stories that we could find here in KSA, we find that they were able to empower these Saudi women and they are being integrated in many fields that they are not permitted to work in before. However, now they are strongly present in these fields. Um, the society now has the awareness and This awareness enables it to empower the women and to combat all the traditions and norms that are taking the religion as a cover for what they are stating and for being outdated for our time and age. Another model or another success story for the KSA and what the country is witnessing right now under the auspices of His Excellency the Kingdom and the Crown Prince, we find that this transfer is affecting or is influencing the other countries, as it is the country where the Kaaba is present, and that's why it is affecting and influencing the other countries all around the world. I remember that working on this kind of education, when the level of education is raised and when the education prevail in the society, we will find that the success story, is a very great model to be followed. In our countries, when it comes to the constitution, it is a liberal one. It gives the women its rights. If it is, if it has Islamic constitution, there will be no doubt in giving the women their rights to land ownership. However, all the other types of constitutions, they protect the women's rights after the woman's being prohibited from participating, from disposing her husband's inheritance or her son's inheritance. This are all changed right now. I can't say what are the other states. However, I know that there's a great development and change, as well as awareness, a raising one that will take us out of this darkness and will put a limit for all the injustice that were practiced for a long time, where the women weren't able to have access to her right, especially the right to land ownership and money ownership. That's why the days proved that when we are able to take such societies from save such societies from the injustice of norms and traditions that oppose the Islamic texts and rules and constitutions as well. Thus, we will be able to live peacefully. Dr. Abbas has mentioned a very important point that the woman herself should help the scholars and the institutions as well as organizations in order to support her own issue, because she if she demands or requests or claims for her rights, she will find many constitutions and many organizations and many institutions that will support her and protect her. And here in the Islamic Fiqh Academy and in the OIC also, we have made 3 trips to Afghanistan where women are deprived from education, and we met the leadership there and we made it clear for them that depriving the women from education is not related to the religion in a way or another, and who wants to do this in the name of religion, the religion refuses all of this. And if anyone wants to do this in the name of religion or the norms and traditions, they are opposing the norms and traditions. I think that all the practices that we are witnessing right now and the stories that I have mentioned, I give the KSA story as a role model in this field and in this framework. I hope that God will help all the states to take all these initiatives and to protect such rights, because I said once that Allah will held accountable those who do injustice, and he is the one who will prevent this injustice, but by the support of the constitutions and the organizations that should take such responsibility. Thank you, Doctor, for this, for your words, as it is an invitation for the other states and the other groups, because you introduced us to the story of the Saudi women, and we all respect them, and we all envoy also the Saudi women for what she had achieved, because there is a great difference for what the Saudi women have achieved right now, which is considered an invitation for the other groups and the other states to take the same path, as by patience and claiming rights, this will made us achieve what we want. And as you have said, in Afghanistan, there's another success story, and we have to continue the path in order to achieve all our rights. And as we say that we as women and also men and scientific scholars, we have to continue this path in order to take our rights that the Islam provides for us and to achieve justice and equality. Actually, what you have said triggers me to continue uh, asking the other question, to give us a hopeful picture for the society, or how the case will be if the women are empowered and given her own rights, how the society should be, how the society would be transferred economically, and will achieve a breakthrough. Now I'm giving you the floor.
أنها هي تكون ذاك المجتمع النموذجي.
You are right. It's the model of the society that follows the Prophet, a society that the Prophet had established, a society which the Prophet had wanted males and females to work together in, of course, abiding by the restrictions and limitations from our Sharia. By this, we will find that the society will not have any delays in comparison to other societies. There are some practices, of course, that will be unjust towards women, but these are all not present in these societies, such societies that we can call prophetic societies. This is a balanced society where everything is balanced and everyone is cooperative. It's a society where everyone would know that whoever uh, works well in his life, whether he's a male or a female, will be granted rewards by Allah. Whoever works appropriately and works well, not just males, not just females. Males will not achieve the decent life by themselves, nor will females, but together they will achieve a decent life, a life where all unjust practices are not present, because these practices allow for corruption and ignorance. Imagine a society that says women are half of the society. If you let this society be, then how will its how will the result be? This society will not be a good society if it does not allow women to work at their full capacity. So we should stop trying to hinder women from taking the roles that they should be playing, because we find societies that do prevent women from playing their roles as they should have. Then we found that these societies stopped progressing, and therefore they will not reach the advancement that they are aspiring for. Instead, we find that these societies are behind. Of course, we cannot be an ideal society, but we want to be a society that has awareness. If we walk on that path, the path that the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, has walked on, a society that did not exclude women even from fighting for the sake of Allah or for jihad, because women would cure the wounds and try to heal the wounds of fighters. We found them in the battlefields, even when it was dangerous for women. The Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, even with the Fajr prayer, a prayer that is known to be one of the hardest prayers to attend to because it is dark outside. However, the Prophet had said that women should not be prevented from entering these mosques. If a woman wants to witness this prayer and other events and prayers, then she should be permitted. We find this cooperation and openness in such society as well as others. Therefore, if we truly want to have a society where all rights are equal, where no one tries to steal other rights, where men do not try to take women's rights and vice versa, if we maintain these rights and preserve them, we will find that society will achieve advancement and prosperity that we all aspire for in all our work. However, if we hinder, if we marginalize, if we manipulate, if we step on others, because of course Allah created a society with both males and females. However, wants the society to be male dominated or female dominated, then they are not following our innate nature that Allah has created us by. We have to build our societies on this cooperation and integration that our religion has given us. We should not make one party missing. We have to know that each one of us has their roles and that these roles are integrated by one another. We need them in all fields and with all roles. However, if we find these fields, but we can still find some fields that need more labor force than others. And if this workforce is contributing to building the society, we will succeed. Therefore, women have their full rights to contribute to such advancement in order to develop their societies. But marginalizing women will lead to the corruption of these societies. In taking women rights, of course, they are rights because no one should be stepping on them or stealing them because they are the women's rights, and we should not be taking anything from it. It's not our right. When women are earning any money or earning anything, then it's their full rights. We cannot deprive women from taking their monthly money or salary at home just because they're working, for example, because these amounts of money that they're taking is for their work at home activities and how doing their house chores, and they are there for rights. Males should be paying for them, and this is because Allah has said that men can earn from their work and women can work from their work as well. And Allah had said that they both have to do so and earn from their work by production. This is what's known as production. Such production has its revenues and success factors, whether it's financial resources like capital, and we have the revenues like the income that we gain and profits and so on that we are gaining. So by working, it means producing and earning. This will create a successful society, a prosperous society that will eradicate poverty, because poverty is one of the illnesses that we can find in societies where unemployment is widespread. So these societies, therefore, are not advanced, and there will never be such problem if we all work together and all individuals in society work together to produce and be productive. We will not find unemployment, and we will not find such disorganization or unjust distribution of shares that each individuals should have in society. We can talk for longer, however, we want to also clearly stress that an advanced society, a society that we are aspiring to be, is a society where all individuals work together and cooperate with one another. To work together, we all should be waking up in the morning and work hard the entire day and be productive in cooperation with both men and female, abiding by the rules, as this will create an advanced society that is also balanced. This will also make all crimes disappear in the society, as well as all factors that um, cause corruption in the society. We are saying this, and we have to achieve it in our work. We have to maintain and preserve these rights and roles that Islam has given women and blessed women with, as well as called women to achieve. Islam did not say that women should be marginalized, living far away from such cooperation or efforts. Rather, Islam has said that women are partners with men and that they have to be working with them. Allah has said that both male and female Muslims are partners to one another that help one another. So we have to abide by these rules where we try to spread good economically, politically, and in education as well as prevent all forms of corruption, because it will result in looting, treason, and others. These are all very destructive issues. So men have to work to eradicate such bad forms, whether they were in politics, economy, ideologies, or others. They have to work together to make such society ideal as they're aspiring to make it. I think Dr. Abbas will continue with us now and talk further about this issue. We believe that the Islamic Ummah, God willing, will return to the Prophet's um, uh, ideology, and the conditions that we are facing right now are exceptional. This is because we marginalized women, and we found people trying to steal their rights and not establishing rights for these mothers, daughters, girls, neighbors, and others, and partners that we are responsible to work with in order to make our societies more advanced. So we have to cooperate with one another to develop our societies. I hope that the Women Development Organization, God willing, will achieve our aspirations and increase awareness on this issue. And I hope that it makes women more aware and knowledgeable about their inalienable rights that Islam has granted them, as well as other laws and constitutions that all ensure the rights that Islam grants them. So we have to apply such laws and restore them if they were stolen from us by a dictator or an unjust person who tries to steal these rights under any conspiracies. Do they know more than Allah does? No. Allah is the all-knowing, and He granted women's rights to participate that way, just like how it was in the days of the Prophet. They were participating in all the works, even with the army while fighting. So there were women in the battlefields. They were responsible for trying to cure the wounds. If they, how would they do such job if they do not have the knowledge and awareness that will enable them to do so? The Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, has ensured that they have their important role and they have to be empowered to do their role, and that will achieve a balanced, advanced, peaceful society that lives in prosperity and welfare, and God knows the rest. Thank you, Professor Kotoub. Your speech was very rich, and I can see that there are a lot of comments and participations as well as questions, and we have a lot of recommendations.
She said that we have very various models of religion, and the only obstacle to apply God's word are the norms and traditions. I think that qualifications should be increased in the rural areas with the technology in order to remind the people of the Islamic laws related to the women's rights. And also, Mr. Muhammad Ali said that Pakistan issued the Women Empowerment Act, also in Khyber and Punjab districts and provinces, uh, issued the same acts to preserve the women's rights. There's a suggestion from Miss Rahaf Al-Fasam. She said that said that their awareness should be raised regarding the financial affairs of the women and the ultimate freedom of the woman to dispose in her money. And also, there is another suggestion that awareness should be raised among men regarding the rights of the women, the positive masculinity from Miss Sana Zayan. There are a lot of comments and questions that we will leave to the end of the participation. I'd like to thank you, Your Excellency, and now I shall be moving to Dr. Abbas Shoman. Yes, I'm here with you. Welcome you again. Despite the fact that the Islamic Sharia gives the right, the woman, the full right to divorce. Now we're talking about and we're discussing the topic today because of the importance of the challenges that the women face in many societies when it comes to this right. These challenges may be social ones or the decreased awareness, legal awareness, and from this conversations and dialogues, we have to highlight these challenges and we have to combat them in order to effectively implement the rules of the Sharia. And rising from this point, I'd like to ask you, how can these strategies, these effective strategies, can contribute to raising the awareness of the legitimate rights of women to land ownership and other rights when it comes to the inheritance between the leaderships of the society. And when it comes to the leaders of the society, I'd like to mention the tribes leaders and the clays leaders as well among their families. How can they affect or influence the establishment of this misconceptions or following the Sharia. Permit me, before talking about the role of the leaders that you have mentioned, I would like to briefly talk about 2 points that my brother Kotoub has mentioned. Maybe they can be misunderstood when it comes to the liberal countries and with all their constitutions and the the Islamic laws and provisions. He was talking about the practices. He was talking about monitoring and following up on the practices. We found in some liberal countries, we found more commitment to giving the human rights or to providing the human rights than the states that they are announcing that they are Muslim states. However, they are doing injustice to the women. The concept is not related to the constitutions. However, they are related more to the practices because the laws that are derived from the Sunnah and the Islam religions and the Islam, all the laws and the provisions should be continued till the end of the world. However, the problem lies within the societies, the environments, cultures. However, it's not related to the provisions or the Islamic laws. Otherwise, he knows that the um, Islamic provisions are more than enough when it comes to the women's right in many fields. I just wanted to make this point clear in order not to be misunderstood by the participants, um, as if we were trying to compare between the uh, Islamic laws and the constitutions. And Mr. Kolb, if you're having another opinion, you can discuss it. However, I know that he is addressing the practices and monitoring their reality. And we can see in non-Muslim state that we miss in other Muslim country. However, this is not related to the laws or the Sharia provisions. Another point I'd like to address, and it was mentioned in one of the comments or the participants, and I'm happy that there's an interaction and participation, as well as recommendations that we have to work on studying and taking them into consideration. And also we can get connected with those who come up with these recommendations. And it is related to the financial issues of women. This is a very important point. We have to reiterate that the financial issues are well studied in Islam, and they are totally independent and separable. However, in many cases, there are rel some things related to the guardianship over women. However, when it comes to the financial issues, they are totally separated from her husband, father, or brother, and she can freely take control over her financial issues, and the husband has no right to prevent her from doing anything regarding her finances. Also, he has to give her the advice without intervening or without preventing her from anything when it comes to her financial issues, as she's totally free and independent to do whatever she wants. Either she was under the guardianship of her husband or her father. When it comes to your question on the different kinds of leaders, it's very important point to be addressed. The leaders can change in their societies conditioned by the correcting of their cultures, as we have to be correcting the misconceptions in the inherited cultures. However, we cannot do justice to the women and they are still having this misconception that the women have no right to land ownership. So we have to make sure that they are having the correct background and the correct culture in order to be able and to have the right to prevail it among the people and to establish it among the people. So we have to make sure that they are adopting the correct culture and that we are correcting their misconceptions and then claim them or call upon them, as we have many scholars that are very well educated. However, um, they are affected by their surrounding environments that will take control over the surrounding environments and the norms and conditions. That's why the right understanding and culture should be linked with the application, and most importantly, the implementation and the application should be um, rising of convention. And also, we don't need to go to the courts, as we have to be convinced with the rights and the women's rights. And if we get convinced that we have to help her to get her own rights, we won't go to the courts either in the Islamic countries or the non-Muslim countries. We have to be convinced by our culture and we have to be convinced by the right of the other, and we don't have to prevent the other from anything. And we have to prevail this among people, and we have to convince them among people. No one will tend to go just to go to the courts, and the courts rules will always be important, as Mr. Cod has mentioned in some cases, because we have to be determined and we have to be abide by such rules. However, we want these rights to be applied by being convinced throughout many strategies that many institutions are based on and are adopting throughout their systems. And the WDO, we need nothing from it but to be successful in applying and in implementing 10% of what Dr. Sano, and then we will claim it to have an award for what she has achieved. Um, the efforts should be great efforts on the ground, and the institutions in our Muslim world shall be integrated, and Al-Azhar will always give a hand for all the people to establish these rights, as we are integrating each others without any separating borders, races, different languages, because all of us we belong to same culture and same religion. However, the problem that we're facing is the cultures on the ground.
شكرا لك معالي
Thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Abbas.
كفيت ووفيت مثل ما يقولوا.
You are more than enough.
وتقول انه منظمه تنميه المراه ممكن
You,
ان تقوم
you're saying that the
ان شاء الله
WDO can achieve 10%, and it can also achieve more than 10% when it comes to the women's important issues. By your help, we will be able to achieve more than 10%, and by the cooperation of all the people, it's very critical that the economic empowerment of women is not limited to the land ownership. However, it needs a collective cooperation between the civil society and the NGOs, including the amending of legal provisions and raising awareness. All of these points are very important, and the efforts should go hand in hand in order to achieve a reasonable rate or ratio, a satisfactory one, to the empowerment of women. And we hope that we can help each other, as you have always did, and we can suggest a conference that collect that gathers all of us, and it can have a good impact on the societies and can address the issues of the rural communities and the rural areas that deprive the women from their rights. Now I'll go for Miss Yasmin. Can you hear us?
طيب يعني باختصار ما هو دور المجتمع المدني في دعم
In a
حقوق
summarized manner, what is the role of civil society organizations to support women's right to land ownership? And how can these civil society organizations or NGOs ensure the application of such rights? First of all, supporting women's rights and trying to achieve the SDG through realizing women's land rights, which will lead to more than just prosperity for them. It will also support their future, and it will achieve equality between the two genders, and also achieve the first and second goals of sustainable development. So we have to try to achieve these rights. For women to also own land, they have to be empowered politically, economically. We also have to respect their human rights. We do have some challenges like health problems. So we have to play a more effective role in supporting the stability of societies, especially those in crises, disasters, and conflicts. We also need to empower women to own land. It means security, stability, independence, and freedom, not only for our societies, but for theirs as well. However, the societal roles assigned to women, especially in Eastern societies, within the family, their ability to access the courts and the judiciary, in addition to traditions and customs, often hinder women's right to own land. Although obstacles to women owning land to use for agriculture, livestock, and other economic purposes exist all over the world, countries in the East continue to impose societal restrictions that pose greater obstacles to their women. For example, the Land Unit of the United Nations Human Settlements Program launched an important report obtained by the women entitled Women and Land in Islamic World, Pathways to Increased Access to Land for Development, Peace and Human Rights. The report addresses the challenges faced by women living in Muslim countries that are not fundamentally different from those faced by women in other parts of the world. Socially defined gender roles, unequal power dynamics, discriminatory family practices, and unequal access to justice impede women's rights to own land. However, in this context, certain land-specific patterns that reflect customary practices emerge as common elements that create opportunities to address these challenges. However, in light of the scarcity of information and figures available in the Islamic world on the percentage of women owning land, case studies confirm that the percentage of women owning or controlling land is very low. The prevailing inheritance rules contribute to the low proportion of female landowners, where only 4% are available. In South Asian countries, specifically in a country like Afghanistan, only 2% of land is owned by women. Although there are no restrictions in Islam that limit women's ability or right to buy land from their money, the low employment rate among women and the high prices of land in general make it difficult. Owning land as a gift as part of the dowry is also permissible, in addition to the right of women to keep the land they owned before marriage, as well as to obtain it as an inheritance, even if it is less than the share of the male. Islamic history indicates that women enjoyed a separate, independent, and complete right to their legal identity and property rights, at a time when in British and American laws they were deprived of them. Excuse me, Ms. Yasmin, allow me to ask, the amendments of the rights have been established and they were different. How so? Tunisia has amended the rights, the laws, and it is following it now. In general, the legal framework for any country has to include women in all activities. The law preserves women's rights. However, I think we need more awareness, knowledge. We need to have more seminars because women need to know their rights and ask for them. Thank you so much, Ms. Yasmin. And again, we repeat, knowledge and awareness are the most important. Allow me to have two attendees participating and commenting and asking their questions. We will take Mr. Omar Al-Amrani. If you could kindly open the mic for Mr. Omar Al-Amrani.
مهندسين الصوت لو سمحتوا المايك للأستاذ عمر العمراني.
Can you kindly open the mic for Mr. Omar Al-Amrani?
طيب المايك لو سمحتوا يا الأستاذ عمر.
Kindly open the mic for Mr. Omar. Okay, Ms. Amal Tawfiq.
مساء الخير أشكر حضراتكم سامعيني؟
نعم نسمع.
Yes, thank you so much. Are you able to hear me? Yes, go ahead. Thank you all so much for this interesting talk, and thanks to all speakers. We really need awareness regarding all what has been said today because a lot of individuals in the society, like His Excellency Dr. Shoman has said, there are some people who do not know. They only follow customs, not law or sharia. So we need such messages to be written down so that we can raise awareness using them. In Egypt, we have a pioneering experience through the rural women and the door-to-door campaigns in cooperation with other female scholars and scholars of Al-Azhar and Waqfs. We all have to work on the problem of women owning lands. We have to raise awareness more extensively so that we address such problem. However, in Egypt, according to our laws and customs, there is nothing that prevents women from owning lands or real estate or whatsoever. The problem is only that in some areas, due to customs and norms, as we have discussed earlier, as a result of these ignorant customs, we do have some injustice. However, by working together, we can address such problem, and we will try to make Egypt a pioneering experiment on how to spread information. Thank you so much for your participation. And now let's move on to Mr. Omar.
إذا لو سمحتوا تفتحوا المايك السيد عمر.
Kindly open the mic for Mr. Omar.
أستاذ عمر تقدر تتكلم تفضل.
Mr. Omar, you can go ahead. I think he has his mic closed or turned off. Can you kindly unmute yourself? From your behalf, on your behalf, please unmute yourself. Just to save time, someone else had commented, we can take the advisor or counselor Abdul Hamid. Advisor Abdul Hamid, if you could kindly unmute yourself.
إذا ممكن تفتحوا المايكات من عندكم. You are unmuted. You should unmute
If you
yourself.
could kindly unmute yourselves from your end.
إلى أن تفتح المايكات إحنا ممكن.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I would like to salute you for your choice of the title. And I'd like to especially salute Dr. Afnan and Dr. Hanan Al-Qa'i. And I'd like to thank the participation of Dr. Nahla Saidi and what His Excellency Dr. Abbas Shoman has said. I also would like to applaud the participation of Dr. Kotoub Sano. To be honest, all speakers have unanimously highlighted an issue that is very clear and present in our society, which is that Islam is not biased against women. In fact, Allah, the Almighty, has made everything related to women's rights ensured so that they are well preserved. In fact, all injustice comes from practices of individuals, not from Allah's law or Sharia or the Islamic texts in this regard. I'm speaking about Egypt in specific. The law in Egypt has provided women with the right to own lands and real estate. It did not discriminate against women. As Dr. Abbas Shaman has mentioned, when he spoke about the issue of owning real estate, on the contrary, Islam has preserved women's right to do so and did not discriminate against them in any way. In fact, societal relations or social relations have weakened the ability of women and they hinder their right to own lands and real estate. However, there is no discrimination between inherited money, whether it's in the form of money or money earned from trade or industry or agriculture or others. However, in Upper Egypt, we can clearly see that it is related to um, preventing it from women in some cases. The issue of owning lands, she cannot own any lands or be entitled to any agricultural lands because agricultural lands are very hard to handle, which might not suit conditions of women, especially if she does not have sons. Therefore, it is a social issue. And what I see is that neither the religion nor law discriminates against women or does them any injustice. However, the conditions of women in our societies do. Therefore, if we raise the level of women's skills and awareness in terms of education and awareness, this, of course, is the responsibility of all sectors in the society, whether they are religious or the institutions related to raising awareness of women's rights to have their position and level in society. So if I raise the level of awareness of women in general, then if they should have some agricultural lands, then they will be able to deal with them. If they have rights to administer anything or any company, then they'll be able to deal with them, and so on. We have a lot of examples where very decent women have showed great skills and work in a lot of sectors, whether it is in agriculture or industry or others, not just inheritance is what women face discrimination in. In Islamic societies, because of the awareness organizations spread, like the Women Development Organization, awareness is now greater among women, where women have a better role, a more highlighted role. Thank you so much. I'm now all done. Thank you so much for this testimony of this reality about women's skills. It really warms our hearts. I have a question for His Excellency Dr. Qutb. One of the participants or attendees, Rabia Ahmed, is asking, in some countries, customs and Sharia laws interfere with constitution laws when it comes to women's rights to land ownership. Hence, conflicts arise. So, how can we solve such problem?
ما قلنا
Thank you so
الحقوق
much. As we have said,
بالنسبة للشريعة الإسلامية واضحة.
as for the Islamic Sharia, it is crystal clear. And as for the laws that you have mentioned, they are very crystal clear as well. And I have said in these states, they have many laws as the Sharia approved and acknowledged the free disposal of women in her financial issues and give her the full right to land ownership, as accordingly she can dispose, spend, and invest. The laws came to add to these rights that are acknowledged by Sharia, and as we have mentioned, some of them in the idea of her inheritance, there's no difference and there's no problem when it comes to Sharia or the Qanun. However, the Sharia came first. As the speaker has mentioned, we can say that these norms and traditions, we can say we can find them in the rural areas. In the rural areas, it is no more a great problem because if the woman is not able to dispose the lands, the inherited ones, she may find another person that can do this instead of her. Not all the people who inherit lands or own lands shall be investing or making anything or using these lands. There are many people who do many other tasks like farming in such lands. However, the main problem here and the main issue that Sharia and even the laws in our constitution, they are all agree that anonymously agree that the ownership can be given to the women and the men equally. However, the norms and the traditions that differentiate and discriminate against women, saying that or claiming that the woman cannot shoulder the responsibility of disposal, and that this kind of tasks need another level or higher level of intellectuality, the woman can be able to do so, or she can need anyone to do so instead of her. We need this kind of interference between the rights because there is no difference between the Sharia and the uh, laws when it comes to the rights of women. However, the Sharia has its own boundaries, which are crystal clear in many countries when it comes to this issue, and the laws cannot be opposing these rules of Sharia. In as Allah is the one who put the Sharia and acknowledge it and impose it on every individual of the society. That's why your honorable organization, WDO, started with raising the awareness. You did great when you addressed the awareness, as the woman should be aware of her rights. Um, if the woman was completely aware of her own rights, we will ensure that we are combating and we were eliminating those who are trying to discriminate between the land and the other kind or forms of inheritance, such as the real estate, gold or silver. So, if the woman can take responsibility of disposal in one thing, she could do the same in the other thing. If the gold ownership can be only for women because they know they are more aware of the gold than men, this is very stupid. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine that the man cannot own gold because he's just a man? He's not just the woman? This kind of problems and this kind of opposition is considered a legal one, and it's opposing all the Sharia rules and laws. And those who are trying to prohibit the woman from her right to ownership of lands or any other form of inheritance, we have to criminalize this. We have to raise the awareness regarding this point that Miss Yasmin has mentioned, as we are trying to maintain a balance between the religious laws, as no one should claim that Islam says so or the legal says so, and on the other hand, the legal penalties that held accountable for those who are living in um, rural states, as now we're having many problems in the villages and the very far away areas, but because the legal offices, we are having more than enough of them in order to um, help the woman to resort to them in order to take back her rights. However, when it comes to the rural areas and villages, they can only complain to God. They have no one to go for. However, with your own efforts and with the conferences and the webinars that you're holding, this will be a way or a path or a method to help these women that are living in such places in to not give away their rights. The women are not asked to take the responsibility of their lands if they not know more about the farming or the blowing or sowing and so on. However, she is the one who owns the lands and she has the ultimate freedom to do whatever she wants. We have the farming, we have the blowing, sowing, and many people who knows the rules of farming and have a good background in the field of lands. Those are here to help those who don't have adequate knowledge when it comes to this kind of fields. This doesn't mean that they are not acting well when it comes to the disposal of their lands, and that's why we are in a deep need, a critical one, to be persistent and to always remind people that raising awareness is the main pillar here. It is the main methodology that should be adopted, and also supporting states and supporting those who believe in this message and in this project, and they believe that the states should support women as hence the states will be supporting their communities, as the development of women will be development of societies, and it's being and it's being unsupported, the communities will be unsupported as well, because the society include women, and they are the half of the communities. If the half if the half of the society is only working, we will have the other half will not be working and will not be achieving something. That's why we have to get the rights back to their owners. We have to prevent all the norms and traditions and practices, as well as the interpretations. As I'm here, I'm addressing a package of the interpretations or the hadith of the prophets, the weak ones that the people are using, that the bad people are using in order to take all the rights of the women and to marginalize the women in the societies. Many institutions such as the Islamic Fiqh Academy and Al-Azhar, we should be strict and we should held there accountable, and we should make them know that all the things that they are saying in the name of our prophet, they are wrong and they are not true at all, and we are not adopting them as well. The interpretations of such texts and um, these interpretations of such texts represent an obstacle and a great problem and a challenge that we should confront. And also, we should prove that such texts are wrong, as they are opposing the verses of the Quran and Sunnah. And also, they are opposing the our prophets' traditions and our prophets' sayings, as he is our role model for the civil society and for the whole world. The status of women and the definition of women and the scope of working of women, all these topics were mentioned by our prophet Muhammad. He mentioned the idea of the discrimination between men and women, and our advantage here, that if we're having any conflict, we have to tend to our prophet and the Quran. That's why if we're having a legal provisions, we have to build on them and we have to use them in order to raise awareness on such rights. Hence, we will be able to get out of the issue of the ownership with all its forms, with all its points, either lands, inheritance, guardianship, all of the forms of issues that the man can challenge without any discrimination between women and between women and men, as the Sharia does not discriminate between both of them. However, the Sharia has stated that the money, if it is the whole inheritance is money, should be distributed for both of them. If it is a land, it should be divided to both of them. And whatever the inheritance can be, it can be divided between males and females, as Allah has stated this in many verses in the Quran. This is the heavenly distribution because Allah is the most knowledgeable. Allah is the one who distributes everything equally and He knows everything. That's why we should follow this to find peace and to find security and justice and everything that you need in this field. Thank you, Mr. Kotoub. We need more than seminar, a chain of seminars or webinars. That's why we have to prevail or spread the awareness and raise the awareness, as it is one of the pillars of our organization and one of the main tasks that we're trying to one of the main goals that we're trying to achieve in order to um, empower women in all and different fields, either economic or social. We are getting out of time. However, we're not bored at all, and we need to know more of the information and the awareness that you were more than enough while providing it. I'm giving another point for Dr. Hassan, and we will be concluding with Dr. Abbas.
You can go ahead, Mr. Hassan. You are allowed to speak. Dr. Hassan, are you able to hear us? You have a minute. You can unmute yourself. Dr. Hassan, if you're able to hear us, kindly unmute yourself. You have the permission to talk. May peace and blessings be upon you. I have really benefited and enjoyed everything that you have said. We all have to sincerely and genuinely try to apply everything you've said. You have all fluently, adequately, and effectively delivered your speeches. We need to stay away from all customs that contradict Islamic texts and prevent women from having their rights, unlike what Islamic texts have mentioned about the importance of equality. Your Excellency, Dr. Abbas, you can give us your conclusion. I don't have much to say, but at the end, I'd like to just show my appreciation about all these efforts and the idea that this webinar is trying to talk about. It may be virtual, however, with all your participation, I think it has transformed into an actual seminar. Myself and all my colleagues, I'm sure, are happy to see your participation and intervention from all the attendees. I wish for all these efforts to continue through other virtual or real seminars, through conferences, through um, written texts that are concerned with this issue. They're already there, to be honest. We don't want to be unjust to the authors. However, we want to increase them and spread them among people. As organizations, we have to work together to be integral in order to cover all aspects and all regions in the world, especially given that these organizations that we belong to are very widespread and are present in reality in a real manner. All countries in the world and organizations like Al-Azhar or the Organization on Islamic Cooperation and others all work uh, in light of this context. So we have to keep going. We shouldn't feel disappointed or bored because some results are already happening. This is all due to the awareness and knowledge that is being spread. However, we really want to spread wise awareness that does not exceed any duties and rights, one that works without any bias or discrimination and without any force, because we are not trying to take revenge from anyone. We are trying to find a society where women are talking about males' rights and males are talking about females' rights, a society that cooperation prevails. And if we reach such performance that we all wish for, not just seeking to forcefully take women's rights and make them belong to men or find men who are trying to reach their rights by asking or demanding for more than what they deserve. We really wish for prompt responses. We would like for everyone to feel convinced. Women or men do not have to uh, think about money that women take because it will eventually go to their sons that will later go to both men and women. So whatever goes to men or females, men or women will prevail over the entire society. So whether the man inherits something from the father or others, this is for his sons and wife. Same goes for a woman. For women, if a woman inherits anything from the father or husband, it will eventually go to the sons and the rest of the society. Therefore, it does not just be for one person, but it will be for the whole society. So if we reach that point, if we preserve these rights convincingly, this will achieve peace all over societies. I'd like to thank everyone, all the attendees, all the speakers, everyone who has thought about this great idea, everyone who has worked on implementing it. We have noticed that more than one participant.
إقامتهم الدكتور قطب سانو والدكتورة نهلة.
We have Dr. Kotoub Sano, Dr. Nahla. They're abroad, however, they were still keen on taking time out of their day to participate and give importance to this topic because it does deserve to be allocated some time for. I wish you all success. I wish all the organizations success in our societies with all the men, females, men, women, and youth. Thank you all, and may peace and blessings be upon you. May peace and blessings be upon you as well. I'd like to conclude by saying that we have to raise awareness. I'd like to thank His Excellency Dr. Mustafa Sano, Secretary General of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, Dr. Abbas Shoman, the Secretary General of the Council of Senior Scholars, as well as Dr. Afnan, the Chief Executive Director of the Women Development Organization, Dr. Nahla Saidi, Advisor to the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, as well as Councillor Yasmin Safwat, as well as everyone else who had participated. I look forward to more participation. May God protect you all. I just want to take one last group picture. If you could all kindly open your video so that we can take a group photo.
شكرا لكم جميعا أشكركم جزيل الشكر على المشاركة.
Thank you all for participating. May God protect you all. Thank you and goodbye. May God bless you all. May I see you in good health, my dear. Thank you. I'll see you soon, hopefully. I wish you all the success. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Thank you, Dr. Hanan. You're such a great moderator. Thank you, everyone. May God bless you all. Goodbye.